work in construction, so I often have the opportunity to work on really nice homes. And I gotta tell you, old people's homes make me feel ashamed of myself. I've got these cluttered ass shelves, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I don't even know what half of this shit is. But in old people's house, there's none of that. There's none of that. I've got this box full of random cables that I'll probably never use for 20 years. But if I throw them out, I feel like I'm gonna need it next week. I mean, for Christ's sake, I got this GPU in there that I found on the side of the road. Like, and I'm probably never gonna use it. It's probably ruined. I don't even know why I have it. I've never tested it on like a bench. It's hard. It is. I know it is. I know the struggle all too well. But it's not impossible. So the goal is to be indistinguishable from these old people who have their shit together. There's gonna be some days where get on top of cleaning means something totally different than others. Some days get on top of cleaning means that you pick up all the trash that you have lying around. Sometimes get on top of cleaning means that you do a load of laundry. And sometimes get on top of cleaning, it's gonna mean that you revamp your room, reorganizing everything, taking everything out, putting it back in, dusting off your shelves, wiping down every surface, hitting the floorboards or the baseboards, I mean, everything. But what's the most important thing here? It's to do it consistently. It's to not falter in doing it every time that you set out to do it. Each time you give yourself an excuse of why you're not going to do it, you weaken your willpower and ability to stay consistent. Now, I'm a firm believer that willpower is, in fact, very real, and we often need to make use of it to get through our lives, but I'm also a firm believer that if you set yourself up for these things that you want to do, it often doesn't take as much willpower as we think. We don't have to be suffering through using this mentality of, I just can't, I'm gonna do the right thing, which can often feel depriving and draining. In order to be able to relax into a routine of sorts and stay consistent, you're gonna have to temper your expectations to a degree. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't aim high. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have ambitious goals. And in fact, I'll explain why I do think it's quite the opposite. But it is important to be realistic about what we can accomplish in 1 year's time, for example. As a natural lifter, you can't really expect to gain 55 pounds of muscle in 1 year. We're talking pure muscle. We're not talking just 55 pounds of weight. There's a difference between just weight and actionable muscle, right? Same thing like when you're losing weight, there's a difference between losing weight and being healthy and gaining weight. Basically, tempering your expectations means don't set a goal that is doomed to start from the get-go. Because anything that you do over time, over and over and over, eventually you get better at it. You start to do it because you care about it and less just for the sake of having done it. Like weightlifting, at first you start going to the gym, you don't really know what you're doing in there, and you're just moving the weights. You're just trying to get some exercise in. But eventually, it becomes an art form, a practice of conditioning and training, repetition over and over again. You start to perfect it as if it's an art form. Eventually, people will notice this. They'll notice that you've been really consistent. Being consistent is this thing that just can't really be taken away from you, because it takes a certain level of dedication to get to where people can recognize that consistency. And that's the beauty of it, is that you can temper your expectations because you will get better. You don't have to start off at the end of the road. You can start off as a complete beginner. Even if you're not, even if you're just trying to get back on the saddle, you can tell yourself, hey, it's okay. I'm going to treat this as if I was a complete beginner and get back on the saddle and figure things out again. For example, I'm trying to consistently upload to YouTube. Yesterday, I should have recorded, but I didn't. I didn't make my mark. I was really exhausted because I had some extra long days at work, and I fell through on my plan. But this is the first week that I told myself that I'm gonna be real consistent. I wrote everything down, etc. I'm trying to do a video upload every week, and I reviewed them, and I realized that I should have been recording like this whole time. Consistency, baby, it makes you better. One thing this video is going to lack is consistency in the camera orientation. So the way that you can get good at being consistent, the way you can kick it off and do things right, is to write down your goals. And, you know, that may be easier said than done, but it's not impossible. It's completely possible. There's not one person who's viewing this that's incapable of it. The way I've been breaking down my goals, and now in my first week of doing this, I've seen, honestly, pretty massive success, is I first envisioned my 1 year goal. And my 1 year goal was for me to buy a piece of land. I've been saving up money, I've been working hard towards this goal, and this is the year that I want to pick a piece of property to actually buy and start to construct my home, perhaps, or at least own the property. So that's my 1 year goal. That's my big shebang, the thing that I'm working towards. So that means that everything else that I do this year has to lead into that goal. Whether it's the way that I sleep, the way that I eat, the way that I prepare myself for my days, everything needs to go towards this goal. But thankfully that makes it pretty easy. I have chosen a realistic goal for myself because I have been saving up money. I have been working hard towards this goal. So now I'm at a point where I'm ready to do this. This would be like if I made the decision to step on a stage for bodybuilding after 5 years of consistent training. I would be pretty ready to do that. I would be in some pretty good shape, and I'd be like, yeah, I can get on stage 1 year from now. Will I win? Who knows? But I've been preparing for this. This is a realistic goal. I can get cut and do all the things, right? Now you break down your 1 year goal into 3 month goals. And this is where having something like a planner is really awesome. I'll throw up some photos of my planner. I've also got a notebook which I've been writing out my notes in and breaking things down, which has helped me besides my planner, because what I put in my planner I kind of want to be set in stone. I want it to have been thought out already, not necessarily winging it here with the planner. I plan to try and record out here, but It's just too windy. I'll end up putting scenic shot at the beginning instead. So there needs to be a long-term goal in place so that you can break down your goals and turn it into actionable steps. Things that you could do it tomorrow if you decided to, right? So my long-term goal is to buy a piece of property or a home that I can renovate, something along those lines, and sell it eventually. But that's my long-term goal. So I need to break that down into 3-month increments so that I can process what it's going to take for me to get there. So for me, I need to increase my income a little bit so that when I do dive into this big purchase, I have room to breathe. So that means to increase my income, I need to work on my business strategy and my work ethic. So by proxy, my 3-month goal is to become more effective in my life. Well, how do I do that? I break everything down. Wow, it works hand in hand. Isn't that something? So what am I breaking down? Well, it's my routine. I got to building a routine months ago before really starting to implement all this. Rather than being like a total New Year's resolutioner and being like, I'll start in January, it was like, well, I'll start now. And last year I started working and planning and plotting on these things, and I came up with a lofty routine, which I'll try and throw up on the screen now and show you guys. This is ambitious, it's over the top, it's more than what I can accomplish in a single day, realistically, at least right now. But the reason that it's like that is because it gives me something to work towards. I filled my routine with nothing but good habits. I made sure that everything in there would be productive. Like, I didn't put, 1-hour video games. I didn't put 1 hour cycle cleaner through a garden hose. Nothing ineffectual went on my routine. I digress. I tried to fill it to the brim with things that I know are productive and things that I can just scatter through my planner. Now, I took the time to break down my first month, and in my first month, to work towards my whole 3-month goal, I needed to have 2-week goals. So for example, amongst my 3-month goals was to increase my finances. I have a small business on the side from my job. I need to sell my service to people, so therefore I needed to come up with a customer approach plan. And that's something that I can't just do in one session or one day fully. So I told myself that I need to work on that every day. So my 2-week plan got filled with customer approach plan. My 2-week plan got filled with wake up at 5:15 a.m. every single day, which I did for my weekdays. I failed yesterday and today, honestly. But I did wake up every morning. I did wind down at a certain time every night. I did try and stick to these things. I filled it with things from my routine. I took away from this daily schedule I made myself to fill in the gaps on these bigger goals. And I filled the 2-week plan with nothing but actionable steps, things that are a clear pathway towards what I need, things that are a clear pathway towards advancement. So on that 2 weeks, I've got waking up at a certain time. I've got winding down at a certain time. I've got do your customer approach plan multiple times through the week. I've got search the home portal, which is going to get me towards the goal of actually going and visiting some properties, touring them, starting to see the things that I need to be looking out for when I'm choosing a property, because it's not going to be an impulsive decision. It needs to be something that I've thought out clearly. So with that in mind, I have been able to daily check off these little goals, which have been building me up towards my big goal. And my big goal feels so much closer after just 1 week of really putting, towards this. Now I'll say this. I mentioned that I failed yesterday and today on waking up on time. And that's because of another practice of living at your edge. There's a really great book called The Way of the Superior Man. And mostly it talks about how to interact with the feminine energy as somebody with masculine energy in this world. Very great read. I think all young men should read it and keep an open mind to it, because some of the wording I could see why people would misconstrue it, but if you have, more than the IQ of a goldfish, you should be able to figure out that it's not on some weirdo bullshit. I digress. Now, in this book, Mr. David Data talks about living your life at its edge, and he also speaks on living life for your truest purpose. Now, let me first talk about living life at your edge. Means to push yourself truly to your limits, to work in a manner that you feel that you couldn't go any harder. That is to live life at its edge. It doesn't mean to be an adrenaline junkie and be cliff jumping and skydiving, although those are cool and fun things to do. But it means to truly take on life and grab it by the fucking balls and twist it, and not take complacency and mediocrity for an answer. I feel that though it wasn't that crazy, I've got a day job. I work, 50 hours roughly a week in construction. And it's like, I have all these little goals and these big goals to stack on top of that. So I truly end up with like a 70, 80 hour work week, if you want to consider all of the work I do towards my goals work. Though it's not on the clock, it counts. It's still my life. It's still the way that I'm spending my time. So I feel that this week I truly lived to my edge. I truly tried to implement every single good practice that I wrote down. I truly did my best to stick to this, and it wore me out, because I have a big problem of not being able to sleep great. Sleeping consistently is also in my 3-month goal. I realized that in order for all of these bigger goals to fall into place, I'm going to need to fix my fucking sleep. I am going to need to have that shit in order so that everything else can fall in line behind it. I realize that without proper sleep, I'm not going to be able to live to my true edge. I only feel like I'm living at my edge. I'm living down here, like let's say here, right? Here, we got our scale. I'm living like here at best, when I could be living here with more sleep. But my edge is brought down here simply because I'm not sleeping well enough. So this is what my first quarter of this 1 year ultimate plan is breaking down to. My first quarter is to improve my lifestyle. It's to be more effective in my life. I hope this video was useful, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.